Welcome to Unapologetically Sensitive, a place to find connection, a sense of belonging, and community, where you can learn, relate, laugh, and maybe even live a bolder, brighter life. I'm your host, Patricia Young, licensed clinical social worker. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional. This is a weekly podcast where we explore how sensitivity weaves itself into our lives. We talk about the richness that it adds, the strengths we have because of our sensitivity, and some of the challenges it poses as well. Sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's our superpower. Hey there. This is bonus episode 35, and I want to talk about how I didn't mind my own business and consequently had a shame attack. I don't recommend shame attacks for anybody. Especially as highly sensitive people, I think sometimes we're just more prone to them because we feel things more deeply. And the whole reason I had this shame attack was because of my sense of injustice and what felt unfair. And the truth was, I wasn't staying in my own lane. So I'm going to be a little bit vague about this situation because it's not my stuff, and I got into somebody else's stuff. So one of my sons and my husband and one of my son's friends decided to do an activity together. I wasn't there. I didn't arrange it. It had nothing to do with me. Getting a clue, not my lane. And something came up in this event that happened that had nothing to do with me that triggered my sense of injustice. So I started asking questions, and the more questions I asked, the more it triggered this sense of what happened wasn't fair. And then it happens to be that I talked to somebody that was related to this situation, and I ended up inadvertently, believe it or not, I wasn't looking for it, but I got more information that just spurred me on even more about what felt like it was an inequity. And when I talked to my husband about this, he didn't have any issue with it. He was fine. He wasn't feeling this energy that I was, that what happened wasn't fair and it wasn't equal and all this stuff. And so what did I do? I had judgment that it didn't bother my husband. It's so interesting that I think that again, as highly sensitive people, part of how we're wired is we really care about the underdog. We're so sensitive to people's feelings, and we take in so much that we tend to have a very strong sense of wanting things to be equal, fair, just. And when they're not, I think it triggers a stronger reaction in us than it does to non-HSPs. And the fact that I was really worked up and triggered about this, and that my husband was like, it's not a big deal, just spurred me on even more. And the reality is that one of the things that I love about my husband is that he's really easygoing. He's my anchor. He keeps me grounded. But when I get worked up, I want him to get worked up. And I share that because I think that it's common for us, because we have such strong feelings, we don't want to feel alone in our feelings. And so when the people around us who can be really grounding for us don't have the same reactions, it just creates more of that sense of isolation and wondering, why we're having these strong feelings and nobody else is. And I wanted my husband to have his values and my values and react the way that I wanted him to react. If he did, he wouldn't be the same guy, so it's really not a fair expectation. Laura Carr is a therapist who lives in San Diego. We're going to be doing a podcast episode. Maybe it will have come out by the time you hear this. I'm not sure. I've known her for 25 years. And she and I use the app Marco Polo, which I'm still not getting sponsored by and not getting any money every time I mention them. We talk about pretty much everything. And so I polled her about this and I asked for feedback. And she's very loving and kind. And she reflected to me very kindly that this really wasn't my business, which triggered, oh my gosh, a shame attack. It was in the morning time. I had a puzzle out on my table. So I'm kind of working on the puzzle and we're poloing back and forth. And I'm crying, and it just triggered so much for me. And what happened was I realized, and I've talked about this, that as HSPs, we notice all kinds of things that other people don't. We want to stand up for the underdog. We find lost souls. We crusade. We're passionate. We want to fix the wrongs. And how many times in my life had I been shamed and had been told to mind my own business? I really felt like I was never really honored or cared for the fact that I care really deeply. I want justice. This is a special part of me that needs to be respected. And I don't think that I'd really ever given voice to this. I mean, I'd gotten upset repeatedly over things that felt unfair. The blessing that came out of this shame attack and having somebody that I could talk through it and who was able to really shine love and honor and respect on me really helped me see that this is a special part of me that needs to be respected. And I value the fact that I have someone that will mirror back to me when I'm not staying in my own lane. I have blind spots, and I really can get myself really worked up over things that I spent a lot of energy with this situation, and it wasn't really even my situation. So even though we had this enlightening conversation and I had these insights, emotionally, I was pretty wiped out. I had a pretty hard morning. I sat and kind of numbly worked on the puzzle instead of taking care of other things just because it really had wiped me out. And then later that day, I talked to my husband about it. I apologized. He said he felt like I was in his business. And I said, "You're right. And I'm really sorry about that." When I contacted this third party, because this person was kind of got a little tangled into the mess, and I kind of dragged her into some of the drama and trying to get things to be what I felt was more equitable, I apologized and I admitted that sometimes I get pretty fired up about things that aren't my business, and this really wasn't my business, and I felt embarrassed, and I really need to practice staying in my own lane. I was really reluctant because I didn't feel confident that this person would really be able to understand and engage with me. My experience in my life has been, I have these very deep experiences and people just kind of look at me. And I think it's just because they're not HSPs and they don't process the way that I do and they don't know how to respond. But historically, it's triggered more shame because I'm having these deep experiences and people are not able to really mirror and reflect the depth of what's going on for me. So I kind of went into it expecting that this would be one of those situations. And the truth is, she responded with empathy and compassion. She acknowledged she related. My concern was that if I talked to her about it and she wasn't able to respond, that I'd want to avoid contact with her due to shame and feeling embarrassed. And it really ended up working out beautifully. I felt really seen and heard by her, and she was very gracious about the whole thing. From here, for me, moving forward, what I get to do is to be aware of when I get a charge about things not being right or things not being fair. What I need to do is I need to sit with it. And then I need to really do an evaluation of, is this directly impacting me? Is it about me? Is this my business? If I need to get a reality check, I'll get a reality check. And then also to just use a ton of self-compassion and gentleness. You know, as HSPs, we catch everything. We want justice, and it's just not always our place. And sometimes we really need to allow others to work things out for themselves, to have their own experiences. So the question for me is, am I staying in my own lane? And what I want to pose to you is, and again, this is to look at it with gentleness and self-compassion. This is not one more way for you to beat yourself up. But when you find yourself getting really charged up with the sense of this isn't right, this isn't fair, things shouldn't be this way, when it's about our own issue and we need to advocate for ourselves, it's totally appropriate to stand up for ourselves and to advocate for ourselves. If it's for our child and the role is that we need to advocate for our child or someone who's ill or someone who's not able to advocate for themselves, then of course we need to step up and be an advocate. And in this situation that I told you about, these were all adults. It was my sense of injustice. It wasn't my business, and I needed to stay out of it. Are there places where you're getting charged up and feeling like things are just not fair? And is it something that you need to stand up for, or is it something that you need to let go of? We're all human and we're learning, and this is just a process. But I think as highly sensitive people, We have strong emotional reactions to things, and when it comes to fairness, we have even a bigger buzz. Being told that, we need to mind our own business creates wounds that we need to heal. All right, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. If you want to get any information about the show, the easiest thing to do is to go to unapologeticallysensitive.com. You can find the episode you're interested in and click on it, and the show notes will be there. If you want to get in touch with me, my email address is there as well. We have a Facebook community by the same name, Unapologetically Sensitive. I would love to have you join. It's a place where I'm hoping that we can connect, I can get to know you, and get a sense of what content you're looking for, how I can help you and be of service. Please remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's our superpower. Have a blessed day.